Hey everyone, welcome back. Have you ever wondered how Netflix works to make sure that your movie night is never interrupted? Um, Today I'm going to break down Netflix architecture into simple format that everyone can understand, even a beginner can understand. So, when you look at Netflix, it's designed into 5 different parts. So then they've got the front end, they've got a back end, they've got streaming, and then they've got big data, and then they've got also the CI CD. Don't worry about that. We will touch on to that when we get there. So then if I can explain the planning process of any application like Netflix, right? You will then have to realize that understanding the main goals, it is the target. You cannot go anywhere and design any application without understanding what the application is intending to achieve. So then let's do it like this. Let me say Netflix architecture. Netflix architecture, right? Let me just resize this just a bit. Okay. So then regarding the planning, let's look at the main goal for Netflix. So the Netflix, it is required. Let's look at item number 1, which is first thing first. When you design anything, you must make sure that you look at the main goal of the application. What is the spec? What is the application required to perform or to do? So then, first thing first, Netflix needs to deliver seamless streaming. You don't need any interruption when you're streaming your favorite movie, right? So then Netflix needs to meet that goal, which is to deliver seamless streaming. So then let's go to number 2, which is Netflix is supposed to handle large amounts of data and large amounts of data. So then application like Netflix, it needs to handle large amounts of data either way, because remember, application that is supporting like the whole globe. It's not some regional app that is gonna be used by people of that particular village. So it's a global application. Worldwide they stream Netflix. So the number 3, we must also make sure that the application ensuring that no matter where user they are, they get fast and reliable service. So then this is availability, because application must make sure that no matter where you are, no matter where you're streaming the Netflix from, you must get that fast and reliable service. So then it's availability and reliability, right? So then what I can say is, before Netflix even start building their own application, they need to plan or to cater for millions of users watching in different countries and different times. Because remember, people differ in different regions, differ by different times. So then this requires a strong architecture at the front end and back end, and also strong system for data storage and streaming and security, right? So Netflix needs to make sure that they need to plan and cater for millions and billions of users watching in different countries and different times, right? So then with these three goals for Netflix, to deliver seamless streaming and able to handle large amounts of data and availability and reliability of Netflix architecture, then in simple way, Netflix needs to achieve that. Then that's why you would agree with me that before even starting to build Netflix application, if you were to build that, you need to plan to cater for billions of users watching in different countries at different times. That must be in your design pattern when you design the application at the front end, back end, and the strong system for data storage and streaming and security, right? So then now let's move this out. Let's move it. These are, let me name this the goals. So this will be the goals. These are goals. Let me name them the Netflix goals. So the Netflix goals, they need to deliver seamless streaming and handle large amounts of data and make sure in terms of availability and reliability. Then now let's look at step one. So step one of designing Netflix application. So what will be step one? Step one will be front end. All right. So then step one needs to be front end, which is by right terminology, it's user interface. Right? So then that's step one. That's where users will be engaging with the application from. That's the standpoint that users are going to be engaging with the application from. Remember, users won't be seeing your backend, your data handling, your security, and user will be using user interface. That's why it's called user interface. It's predominantly made for users. So then for the front end, the first thing you see when you log in into Netflix, the user interface, also known as front end. We normally build those user interface using technologies like React, JavaScript. At times, we go for Kotlin and Swift for the mobile application, like your mobile devices, if you need to be streaming those applications like Netflix on your phone, right? So step one is front end, which is this user interface, and technologies that are used there. It's React. Let's break it down. It's React, and then number two, it's JavaScript. Number three, it's Kotlin for your Android application in the Android devices. Number four, it's Swift for the Apple device or iOS. All right. So looking at these four technologies, just a simple tip that I can give you. It's just like creating the interface of a simple app, but much more scalable. So you can use this tech to create any user interface of a simple app, your to-do list and yada yada yada. but with much more scalable. That's the side you need to take when you're building application like Netflix. So let's look at what will be step 2, right? Step 2, of course, is going to be back end. Back end, in simple terms, it's behind the scene. Remember when they shoot a film, when they shoot a movie, or when they shoot a music video, you don't know how many times they are tempted to shoot a particular scene. There's a retake and redo for so much time to get that part right, and you don't see that part being aired on your TV screens. You see only the perfect parts. So then that's where backend stay. You don't see backend, you communicate with backend using that particular front end web interface. Then to pull some data out of the backend, you need to use the front end, which is provided to you. So then with backend, it use particular Netflix use same and common technologies to run their backend. And those technologies in the backend includes Spring Boot. Spring Boot is the Java framework. So then this Spring Boot, what it does, it helps run and manage all the services Netflix offers. So the Netflix completely run on Spring Boot in backend. Then number 2, for messaging and streaming, it use Kafka. It use Kafka and Flink. So what these two does, these are used for messaging and streaming data in real time, like making sure that data is constantly flowing. That's where Kafka and Flink comes in. Then number 3, on backend, they do have database. They do have database. So then database is where the data is stored. Netflix use multiple database. They don't use one. So then use multiple database like MySQL, Cassandra, Cockroach to store user data, movie info, and more, and all those movie metadata, just like that. So then let's say MySQL. Let's say MySQL and Cassandra. So Cassandra is one of those databases that we call them edge based. So then the edge base, it's wide database that you can see. You can see and store data, large amounts of data with no limitation. So also same as Cockroach DB to store user data. All right, so these are 3 services that Netflix uses on the backend. So then what will be step 3? Let's move on to step 3 without wasting any time. So step 3, it's going to be streaming. Let's say step 3, which is streaming. So then this step 3, what I can tell you is the heart of Netflix, or is the engine of Netflix. Without this streaming, Netflix is completely dead, and Netflix, it won't be able to run or function without this step tree. So then this is the the top tier of Netflix services. So then, as the heart of Netflix, this step tree of streaming, the streaming system ensure that your video plays smoothly without buffering. Netflix they use their own CDN. I'm sure most of you knows CDN, the content delivery network. So the Netflix use their own CDN. They do not depend on some content delivery network from maybe AWS or any other service provider you can think of. So then the CDN that they use is called Open Connect for the content delivery network. So, and also for streaming, Netflix uses the Elastic transcoder. So let's say number one, Netflix uses Elastic transcoder. For most of you who are very familiar with AWS, Elastic Transcoder is an AWS service that they offer. So the Netflix is using that. So Elastic Transcoder, what it does, it helps convert videos into formats that stream faster, and how Amazon S3 helps with video storage. So the Elastic Transcoder works hand in hand with Amazon S3. So then that's what Netflix is using to make this streaming available and possible at all cost, right? So then just imagine storing movies in a giant library and delivering them to viewers in the exact format that works best for their devices. What a charm. I mean, just imagine you storing movies in a giant library, right? And delivering them to viewers in the exact format that works best for their device without any hassle. That's what users want. So then Netflix uses Open Connect. They use Amazon CloudFront. They use Amazon S3. They use Amazon CloudFront, and they use their own CDN called Open Connect, right? Which is their content delivery network. So then for streaming, Netflix has got these four guys there working with each other, or working together to make streaming smooth as much as possible, right? So then let's look at step number 4 of Netflix architecture. So step number 4 will be step number 4. Let's do the casing right. Step 4. Step 4. In this case, we're looking at big data. All right. So step number 4 is big data. Remember, Netflix collects a massive amount of data globally, not just about what we watch, but also how we interact with the platform. This is where big data comes in. And they use services like your Amazon S3 and Redshift to store and manage those large data sets. And they also use Flink and Spark for processing those large data sets, right? So then it's like collecting user preferences, what you like, Netflix collect that, store it, then using that data to recommend what you will watch next. If you are the person of horror movies, always streaming horror, Netflix is going to mark those and give you more recommendation on new release of horror movies. That's where Flink and Spark does the magic for processing this data, right? So then let's write it down, what big data has in Netflix. So then they use Amazon S3, they use Redshift, they use Flink, and they use Apache Spark. All right. So then the last part, it will be step 5. So then step 5, which is the CI CD. So then let's look onto that. CI CD, step 5. CI/CD. So then, for you who knows CI/CD, what it stands for, and for you who don't know, so then CI/CD stands for continuous integration, continuous deployment. That's CI/CD. That's the abbreviation we use in software development. So then, in order to keep Netflix running smoothly and updating features, the Netflix team uses tools for their CI/CD, making sure that new updates are deployed continuously without interrupting the service. And they use tools like your Jenkins Spinnaker and their own service called Netflix Atlas to automate deployment and keep the system healthy. They will be deploying new services, new features every day, but then you ever wondered why there's no downtime in Netflix? It is possible because of this CI/CD. They make sure that they smoothly and updating features without inconveniencing users. So then let's look at the tools that they use for CI/CD. So then they use Jenkins. And they use Spinnaker. Then they use their own service called Netflix Atlas. So that's 3 things they use. And then they also use Jira. So then for creating their task, they use Jira. For creating their task, they use Jira. And then for documentation, they use Confluence. For most of you that don't know Confluence it's the documentation father in Atlassian software package. So then if you're getting Jira, and then it comes with Confluence and all other packages. And then they also use PagerDuty onto that. So then these are the 5 tools they use for their own. So Netflix also do DevOps and monitoring as step 6. So one of or 2 of tools that I have included in the CI/CD, it can also be used in step 6 of DevOps and monitoring, because Netflix monitor their entire system to ensure uptime and zero downtime. Like if something goes wrong, system like PagerDuty alert the teams instantly that, hey, system is down, and tools like Grafana help them monitor system health 24 hours. All right, and then there's also step 7, which is something that they use for machine learning and personalization, like to personalize your preferences. It's one of the coolest parts of Netflix, is how they personalize your experience as a user. Netflix use machine learning models built with technologies like TensorFlow, if you know TensorFlow, to recommend shows based on your watch history. Like I told you, that if you are a person of streaming horror or streaming those blue movies and whatever, then they personalize your interest and your likings based on that machine learning model built with TensorFlow, and then they will always show you recommendations of what you frequently watch. All right, which is a cool thing, eh? So there you have it, from the front end that you interact with to the backend that handles requests, and all the way to data processing and video streaming. Netflix architecture is one of the brilliant example of how modern applications are built for scalability, speed, and reliability I've ever seen. Nothing comes close to Netflix architecture in terms of planning. That's one of the brilliant example of modern application. Like, they've got proper scalability, speed, reliability, availability, and all that. So then, without wasting any time, let's jump in onto drawing the architecture of Netflix. Let me just move this just a bit to the right. If you wanted to take notes, this is the notes. You can watch the video, stop, pause, take notes, enjoy. So then let's just do this, create some space for that, create some space for that, and let's move it to here. So it's like this. Let's do it. So then, first thing first, we have got front end. So then the front end layer, it's here, sitting here. And then under front end, we have got API. And the Netflix for API, they don't use REST API, they use GraphQL. So let's just come here and search for GraphQL, which is here. So then under API, Netflix uses GraphQL for API, right? And then for mobile, they've got all those tags I told you about. So then let's say mobile, right? So then they've got the iOS, which you run on Swift, and then for Android they've got Kotlin. So then for mobile, they've got Swift, which is that, and then for Android they've got Kotlin, which is that. That's Netflix. Right? So then for web, let's look at onto the web also. For web application, they've got React, they've got React, and they've got JavaScript. They've got JavaScript, right? So then that's just what Netflix used for their entire front end. So then let's look onto the back end. Let's look onto the back end. So then for the back end, they've got services. They've got services. Under these services, they have Spring Boot, right? They've got Spring Boot, which is the Java framework for backend services, right? And they've got their own services, which is Netflix Zool and Netflix Eureka. So, which something that is in-house services. So then let's look into database. So then for DBs, they use MySQL. They use MySQL, and then they also use Cassandra for the HBase, and then they also use Cockroach DB, and they also use the EV cache for caching. Remember, I told you on from the last lecture that we had that for you to build any efficient application, you must make sure that you do data caching, so that you don't put strain onto the database. Mostly frequent accessed data or requested data must sit on the cache layer. So then they use EV cache for that. And then let's look on to messaging and streaming. Messaging and streaming, right? So then remember, on messaging and streaming, Netflix use the Kafka. Netflix use the Kafka and Flink. So then what Kafka and Flink they are used for? They're used for messaging and streaming data in real time, just to make sure that data is constantly flowing. So then let's look for Kafka. Then let's try to look for Flink. This is what Netflix use. And then let's look onto the streaming. Let's look onto the streaming. Netflix, they've got on streaming, they've got a video, and then under video they use their own CDN that I told you about, the Open Connect Content Delivery Network, which is the in-house service for Netflix. And then they use also CloudFront. Let's say CloudFront, which is this Amazon CloudFront. Then they use also S3, which is this Amazon S3 for video, storing their videos, right? And then in transcoder, that's where they use your Amazon Elastic transcoder. Let's say let's say Amazon Elastic transcoder. This is what they use, right? Without wasting any time, let's look onto the big data. Let's name it big data. So then under big data, Netflix, they've got what we can call a data storage. So on data storage, they use Amazon S3. They use Amazon S3. Let's say S3. This is the Amazon S3. And then they also use Amazon Redshift. They also use Amazon Redshift. On data storage, they use also Droid. So let's put this in. It's Droid. And then apart from data storage in big data, Netflix has data processing. Data processing. So with data processing in Netflix, they use Flink. And they use Apache Spark. They use Apache Spark. And then they also use TableAU. On data processing. Then that's what they use. So then maybe just to try and break it down again on big data, which was step 4 on our breaking down everything for you. So it's like this. It's like collecting user preference and then use that data to recommend what you will watch next. So then a simple example for you, let's say you are a street vendor, there's this person who always pass by your place, a regular customer pass by, you selling maybe tomatoes, sweets, fat cook, and the list goes on. So then, but that particular person, whenever they come to you, they buy 3 chocolates, which is 3 sweets, and 1 fat cook. So then you, as a street vendor, automatically you collecting data of that particular regular buyer for you. That, okay, then whenever this person comes in or pass by to buy, this person will be buying 3 sweets, 1 fat cook. And you must make sure that that person always get 3 sweets and 1 fat cook to retain your regular customer. That's just how Netflix do that. And last part, let's look onto the CI/CD, the continuous integration and continuous deployment. So let's name that CI/CD. CI/CD. So they've got something called DevOps in CI/CD. DevOps in CI/CD. So then first thing that they've got Jira, then they've got Jenkins, I wonder why Jenkins logo looks like this, an old man. Then they've got PagerDuty, which is the one for alerts. And then they've got the entire Atlassian. They've got Confluence, and then they've got that Spinnaker. Then they've got the Netflix Atlas, which is the in-house tool. So then they've got 6 tools under DevOps, which is the Jira, Jenkins, Spinnaker, and then their own Netflix Atlas and the Atlassian and Confluence and the PagerDuty. So then here we will then have Netflix as the heart. Netflix as the heart. So Netflix as the heart. Let's first do like this. Okay, so for an API, this will be the API section. Let's make it dotted lines, and let's make it some extra. Let's make it dash 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 dash. Okay, looking cool. And then we will separate also this for mobile. which is that. Then we will also do that for web. So let's just move that in for web and move these two guys in here. So the Netflix as a heart is the one communicating with all these services. It's the one that is communicating with all these services. So it's like this. Let's say okay, let's first do that, and then for streaming let's do the same thing. So for video they've got these two guys here. Yeah, it's looking nice. Then for transcoder they've got this Amazon transcoder, right? And then for big data, then the data storage the data storage is that. And then for data processing as well, let's have those three guys. And then for the CI/CD, for their DevOps, they've got these tools, right? And for those services for backend, they've got that service, which is Spring Boot. Then DB, they've got CockroachDB, Cassandra, and MySQL. So then CockroachDB and Cassandra are the H-base database. So let's do messaging as well, which is that. Okay, so then now you can see the complete, very nice looking architecture of Netflix. So then now let's try to wire everything, how everything communicates. So this hits big data, and this big data, let's just do it like that. Let's do it like that. Let's make it solid line. And then the arrow points down. Maybe it's too solid. Let's make it large instead of extra large, right? So yeah, and under big data, they've got this data storage and data processing. Then same here, how Netflix communicates with these services. So Netflix communicate with that. Let's just have arrows here, and maybe have the arrow pointing down, and also let's have another arrow here. Let's do it like this to make it make more sense. So another arrow here. This is Netflix for you. This is Netflix for you. This is Netflix for you. So here on these three services, let's first do this. Okay, let's make it like this. Arrow pointing down. And then also that with the arrow pointing down as well. And also web application. Arrow pointing down. And for these three guys down here, let's do it like this. One straight line up to here. And we have arrows pointing there. Then we have got also arrow for the transcoder. And then we have also link to the data storage. And data processing as well. And then last thing, we have got link to DevOps. Last thing, we have got link to DevOps. So then this is the complete architecture of Netflix. They've got 5 segregated parts. So then it's front end, back end, streaming, big data, and CI and CD, right? Which is something like what you see on my screen. So there you have it. From front end that you interact with to the back end that handles requests, and all the way to data processing and video streaming, Netflix architecture is, I repeat, is a brilliant example of how modern applications are built with availability, scalability, speed, security, and reliability. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Netflix architecture, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more tutorials on tech stack and how the system we use every day actually work. See you on the next one.